Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Let's Taste with the Intrepid Wino. My name is James Scaresbrook and I've been sent some more samples, which I am always very grateful for. I'm happy to share my opinions about wines. I have had people ask, why I don't sort of think about like a scoring system. I think it's hard to put a number on wine because it's so subjective and contextual. When I'm tasting wine, it's not necessarily the same as if I were enjoying it with friends or having it with a meal. So, depending on the context of a wine, it might be a different sort of score. You might feel about it differently. What I attempt to do on Let's Taste is simply to just talk a little bit about the wine, mention the things that I like and possibly things that I don't like. And maybe talk about whether I think it is of good value, or if I have opened up a bottle of wine from my own cellar, if I feel like it has developed well. If you'd like to send me samples, please feel free to get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to have a look at the wines, because that's what it's all about. It's all about tasting wines and talking about them and getting more experience and sharing what you think about wine. So Scotchmans Hill, which is a winery based on the Bellarine Peninsula here in Victoria. I don't think I've actually had any wine on Let's Taste from that particular part of the world. So I'm very excited to look at some wines from the Bellarine Peninsula. If you don't know it, it's not far from Geelong. And Scotchmans Hill, I think it's a reasonably historic vineyard down there, probably one of the best known producers on the Bellarine Peninsula. And I know back when I worked in independent wine retail, sold quite a bit of Scotchmans Hill, particularly the Swan Bay range, because they were all pretty good wines for the price. The Scotchmans Hill wines I'm looking at today, both on a screw cap, as you can probably see. I guess I may as well just sort of crack it open and have a look. The Chardonnay is from the 2014 vintage. It has a recommended retail price of $35. The Bellarine Peninsula being quite cool in terms of the climate, not too dissimilar to Mornington Peninsula, probably has a very strong reputation for the quality of its Chardonnays. To a certain extent, it's Pinot Noirs. It's understandable Scotchmans Hill would be making quite a bit of Chardonnay. So let's have a look at the 2014. A reasonably pale colour. It's got a bit of yellowing in there, but fairly pale for a Chardonnay. It is on the riper end of the fruit spectrum in terms of what kind of fruits I'm smelling. It's more in the stone fruit. Very, very little citrus in my opinion. It's more nectarines, apricots. It has a slight sort of creaminess to it. I would say that there has been some lees contact. I'm not getting much oak character. I'd say it's probably, there's been a little bit more mature barrels, maybe even some larger barrels, sort of 500 litre barrels. But fairly classic kind of Chardonnay in terms of Victorian, cool climate Chardonnay characteristics. Let's taste. The fruit profile definitely carries through onto the palate, really into that ripe apricot character. There's a little bit of a fruit sweetness to it. It really looks like it's a product of lovely, very, very generous conditions in terms of the ripening period. Yeah, there's almost a dried apricot character to it as well. Nice and fresh. There's a bit of texture in the mid palate, but doesn't really have much carry through. It's possibly a little bit too cold, and my apologies for that. yeah, look, my feeling is that it's lacking a little bit of depth. It's a very well made wine. It's quite delicious. It's varietally correct. It looks like a Chardonnay, no question, and it looks like a cool climate Chardonnay, but it's lacking dimension. I think for $35 you can probably find some slightly more interesting Chardonnays. I'm not sure if it's a Bellarine Peninsula thing. I would like to try some other Chardonnays from that region so I can get a bit more of a barometer of this wine. Let's move on. The second wine we're going to look at is a 2013 Scotchmans Hill Shiraz, which has a recommended retail price of $39. As you probably would know if you've seen many, a couple of my videos, I'm a big fan of cool climate Shiraz. I know, the Yarra Valley, for example, Shiraz for me has for a long time been one of the more underrated varieties. So I'm interested to see what the Scotchmans Hill Shiraz has to offer, being from a more maritime climate. Reasonably intense in colour, quite dark as well. Fairly intense on the nose as well. It does have much more black fruit characters, and it's got a note character to it. It is in that sort of tarry, sort of toasty area. There are some spices, but I'm not sure it's necessarily reflective of just the climate. I think that the spicy elements are coming from the barrel as well. Let's taste. It's certainly not heavy on the palate. There is some lightness to it, and it does finish quite fresh. It's pretty bold in the mid palate. It has some fruit characters that remind me of warmer climate Shiraz in terms of the dark fruits, in terms of the sort of toasty notes. It is sort of moving into those more Indian spices, but like sort of sweeter Indian spices. Again, look, this is a very pleasant wine, and like the Chardonnay, it definitely looks like Shiraz. I guess I probably need to have more experience with the Bellarine Peninsula in general, but particularly with these grape varieties, to sort of say with any authority whether or not I feel they are reflective of their region. I couldn't say. They don't really... They're not, yeah. I probably need to know more about the Bellarine Peninsula and how cool a climate it actually is. But when I look at Mornington Peninsula Chardonnay, when I look at Yarra Valley Chardonnay, I can usually sort of detect common characteristics in the wines from those regions. They look like Yarra Valley or Mornington Peninsula wines. These don't necessarily look like they come from a particular region. And again, it could be just a question of me being inexperienced with the region, but it also could be a question of that's sort of how the grapes are grown and how the wine is made. I think the wines are very, very sound, and you're not going to be disappointed, but I think there's so much wine out there. That's a really, really competitive price point, $30 to $40, that it has to be quite good these days to be considered good value, in my opinion. So I think, yeah, they're not really thrilling me very much. But thank you very much, in any case, Scotchmans Hill, for sending me samples. I do appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share my impressions. Thank you guys for watching this video, if you did indeed watch it. If you did, hit that like button below. please leave a comment if you'd like to agree or disagree with what I've said in this video, and make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel so you can see the newest videos as soon as they become available. Please come visit me at intrepidwiner.com and get in touch with me there. Please listen to my podcast, The Vincast. Yeah, until next time, cheers.